All right, guys. So this is the analysis from the giant box, the 16 packs with a lot of guys. So I decided to do quite a few. So as you can see here, we've got quite a few to get through. Now it's only technically 4 guys because I actually brought out Verlander's a few of like in process motions that I kind of wanted to bring out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off actually with Cishek. This one, I picked this one mainly just because this was a personal favorite. When I played, I was, a sidearm submariner style guy, and watching Cishek was a guy I really do enjoy watching just because he's so compact, so succinct. Obviously, he's been doing it for a long time. As you can see here, all the way back to 2010. He's been here, been in the league 10 years, which is amazing, and definitely someone I personally look up to, as a submariner sidearm guy. He throws incredibly well, kind of like a lot of guys who throw underneath. They are, heavily reliant on movement, given it's also because he's probably been in the league for so long. It's not so much about velocity, but especially at those angles, it's about movement, spin, trying to get guys off balance. And, so that's definitely what he relies on, and he does it very well. And he's definitely a guy that I just really enjoy watching guys like him. I think he's probably there's a few different guys, like there's a couple on the Indians that I really like, but I think Cishek is definitely, out of the veterans, definitely the guy I prefer watching when it comes to submariners. So yeah, so that's Steve Cishek. And not too much analysis. I probably, if I were to talk about arm action and stuff like that for submariners, I'm probably going to do it in a video where you can actually see me doing work, because it's a whole lot. It is a lot different. Like when I was learning how to throw sidearm and especially submarine, like it started off as kind of a goof that turned into, oh, this is actually something that's worth looking into. And that's a very common thing. So for guys who are trying to do that, wait for a future video where I'm going to be talking about how to throw sidearm and submarine. All right, so the next one, so I'm actually going to combine these two because, I pulled these guys out for a reason. So these are actually two very similar guys who, to be honest, not a lot of people compare, even though there are a lot of similarities. Both closers, both guys that utilize the cutter, in Mariano Rivera and Kenley Jansen. And especially, too, I feel like, given this may be because, one, I'm an Angels fan, so of course I am a Dodgers hater, but the fact of the matter is, Kenley Jansen, I didn't even realize this until I did the research. Jansen is a top closer, has been for years. I believe owns the save record for the Dodgers, but I don't feel like he gets the credit. Maybe it's just because our attention span nowadays is very, very short, and so because he's had he's had some down times, some big blown saves in the playoffs, and he's kind of been overlooked due to guys like Joe Kelly, where he's not getting put in as many high profile spots. I think part of it though is the fact that he was given kind of the shaft in some games where he was put in for 2-3 innings when he's clearly a 1-inning guy. And I feel like that's kind of something that the Yankees did better with Mariano. Mariano was protected in a way. Mariano is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. There's a reason why he was the first unanimous Hall of Fame, unanimous voted Hall of Famer. And, it's because of how great he was. You're good when you get teams who gift you a bat or gift you a chair made out of literally bats you've broken in your career. That's saying something. I'm kind of curious on this game because it's from the 2013 All-Star game. Yeah, highlight his final season farewell tour by being the oldest player at 41 and first reliever ever to be voted Midsummer Classic MVP. There we go. So, exactly. So, Mariano was a phenomenal pitcher, utilized the cutter, especially longer and longer. But, I was looking at, because I was kind of curious, why does Jansen not get as much love? Why does Jansen not get compared to Mariano? At least in, the light of, both guys throw cutters, both guys throw, actually, the same velocity throughout their careers. Obviously different points, but different years, but they actually throw about the same velocity. Both utilize the cutters. Maybe it's because Mariano also was kind of the first guy to really use the cutter outside of Roy Halladay, well, of course, he was the one who taught Roy Halladay that. Love that story of Mariano getting fined because he taught Roy Halladay how to throw a cutter. But so I would like to see more. Obviously, it's a little bit different. Mariano's, when it comes to mechanics, Mariano was a lot more condensed. He was a lot more tight. He was a lot, I think, more deceptive, and I think that's part of the reason why he's considered a lot better. I mean, besides other reasons, but I think when it comes to like comparison, why people do it, Mariano was a lot more consistent. And then Jansen, he has a long, I think he's a taller guy. I think he's a longer body, and he's a lot looser in his motion. And the problem is when you have guys who are looser and they don't necessarily always pull out slack, their stuff can either be not as deceptive or it won't be as tight. And I feel like that can sometimes affect Kenley, but obviously major leaguer. So in one, top saves for the Dodgers. So not much I can talk about it of being, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, when you're not the greatest, but you're still pretty damn good, and that's how I feel about Jansen. It's hard to compare him to Mariano of all people, but I think there are some similarities that are worth taking a look at. All right, now we're to the final. The reason I took out because I was like, oh, there's a bunch of different parts of. Let's see if I can figure out how to hold these. There we go. So it's just like a little fun thing I kind of like doing just because I saw so many Verlanders and I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. Verlander I love talking about just because his mechanics are probably some of the best. Before his most recent injury, I would almost say I thought he was bulletproof. Like even I thought I was like, Verlander's never going to get hurt. He's never going to have a serious issue. But then he got it, so prove me wrong. Verlander, though, I will still say the most consistent guy of the last solid generation of pitchers, like the kind of like the 2000s and into the early 2010s type of guy. Like how that's actually a great question. Oh, these are all active leader cards. I can't even look up how many years in the league he's been. It feels like forever. But no, he does a great job of he has the drift, kind of like once he hits peak leg lift and his body starts moving forward and he stays over that back leg. He rides his hamstring extremely well. He gets into a good position at foot strike. So you kind of see this is kind of where like a lot of guys stole how to throw hard from Verlander. Kind of like the 5 points, kind of like the 1, 2. He's all splayed out, but he's still like strong in his back leg as he's reaching out. Guys, the whole idea of not drifting forward, like you can still see he's still tight in his back leg. Everything is still kind of held back for guys who are big hip to shoulder separation guys. As his foot is reaching out, his body, if you were to draw a line, his body is still back as he's reaching forward. It's not like he's drifting forward. And then, at foot strike, he's always in a good position. Like you can see here, like this is probably right at foot strike. So his hips have started to open up. His upper body is still back though. Arm is cocked in a ready position. This is actually a great picture to kind of look at as far as how we want to be at landing. So I may actually turn this into a separate video just looking at this, because as you can see, like his leg has just now started to leave the mound, but he's still kind of locked and loaded. At foot strike, he's planted. Like I said, hips are open, shoulders still closed, arm cocked, ready to rotate and hurl that bar upwards of 100 miles an hour. So definitely, if you're going to look at someone who, kind of exemplifies really good mechanics, it's obviously Verlander. Definitely a guy that I always love going back to for the slow motion video. But yeah, that is our big box analysis. So that was a lot of fun, kind of going through everyone. Not super in depth except for Verlander, but can you blame me? And like I said, I might do a separate video. But yeah, if you enjoyed that, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe.